Hi, this is Lori Mirabito from the Be in Demand podcast. I joined the Download Growth Club because I just wanted my podcast to reach more people and also to become the center of my content universe. My downloads had sort of flattened out and they weren't getting any better. So that's part of the reason why I joined the Download Growth Club. My favorite part about being a member of the Download Growth Club is the community of like-minded people. We all have the same goal. The training library that Adam has created and that he is continuing to create. He's also very open to suggestions on what his members need. And also being able to have access to Adam's brain, his experience, and his brilliant out-of-the-box ideas. If you ask me, it's one of the best investments I have ever made.
Hey there, Pod Pals. Do you feel like you could use a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or with converting your podcast listeners into becoming your best clients? I want you to head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and watch the 4-minute video that talks about who I help and exactly how I can help them out. Next, I want you to click on the Discovery Call button to set up a free podcast profit potential discovery call where we can talk about working together to help you reach your podcasting and online business goals. Head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for your free podcast profit potential discovery call. What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam. You are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. If you are an online coach, consultant, service provider that wants to learn how to leverage your podcast to build your online business and get more clients, you are in the right spot. And today we are throwing a Pod Pals Zoom party. I do this once per month, and I love doing these because I get to interact with you all directly. If you want to take part in the November Pod Pals Zoom party, all you have to do is go to my main website, podcastingbusiness.school, and hit the freebie button. There's only 3 buttons on my website, y'all. Hit the freebie button, and you can join and sign up for the next Pod Pals Zoom party and hang out live, just like my Pod Pals are here today. Welcome to everybody that joined me live. For those of you that are here with me in the Zoom room, feel free to use that chat, introduce yourselves, share links, whatever you want to do. Drop your podcast name and link. It's all just open space there for you. All right. The topic of today's episode, I'm very excited about because a lot of times we do like podcast growth 101 stuff. But today we're going a little bit more, I wouldn't say advanced, but just less known growth strategies. So I've got 3 podcast promotion strategies that most podcasters are not using at all. And I'm kind of gonna piggyback off of a known episode and show you a better way to do it as a podcaster. All right. And then I'll teach for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up for open Q&A on this topic. So for those of you that are here live with me, you can get those questions ready to roll. All right, here we go. So 3 podcast promotion strategies that most podcasters aren't using at all. The first one has to do with when you're speaking on stage. So a lot of us know speaking on stages are awesome. I've spoke at PodFest 7 this coming year in 2025 with my 7th year in a row speaking at PodFest. I'm excited that Chris keeps inviting me back. I keep packing the room. We got people laying in the aisle and then the floor and everything. I keep telling me, I'm like, quit sticking me in the little room, put me in the big room, Chris. So if you guys know Chris, send him a text, put Adam in the big room in 2025. But when I speak on that stage, I'm very, very strategic. All right. So here's how we get strategic. When you get invited to speak on a stage or give any sort of presentation, even on like a virtual summit, and you're doing some slides or have some a visual aid, when we speak on another stage, we want to name drop and reference specific podcast episodes. So let me give you my strategy of how I do this. When I speak at PodFest, if you come and see me in January in Orlando in 2025, you will see I'll have a presentation and there'll be like 5 to 7 strategies. It'll be like 5 ways to blah, blah, blah your podcast, grow it, monetize it, whatever. And with each one of those strategies, my slides look exactly like this. It'll say the strategy, and underneath it, it'll say to dive deeper, check out episode whatever of Podcasting Business School. So strategy and an episode that talks about that strategy further. Now, at the beginning of my talk, here's what I'll do. So a lot of people are like, use QR codes and all this stuff. Here's what I do. I'll go, everybody, before we get started, I want you to get your phone out, open up your podcast player app and open it to my show, because I'm going to give you some specific episodes to listen to on your flight home. All right. So I get they're there with their phone ready with my show pulled up. And when I name drop these episodes, I'm not asking them to take a picture of the slide. I'm not asking them to do the QR code. The QR codes screw up in these big conferences because the internet gets wonky. And people are like, if they can't access it, all they see is this weird looking square on the screen. It's useless. So they have their phone out, and every time I go, hey, make sure you guys download that episode, I see people's faces, they scroll right to it. And this is another reason why I number my episodes. So I'm not going, find the one about, blah, blah, blah. Good luck. 500 plus episodes. You're never going to find it. But I go to episode 387. They're like, scroll, 387, download. It's ready to rock. Now I can listen to that on the way home. So when people are flying home, driving home from PodFest in January, I'm going to have at least 5 episodes downloaded in their phone, and they're listening to me on their way home. So when we speak on stages or virtual summits, that's the specific strategy that I think we should be using as podcasters. And don't just promote your show, promote specific episodes. That's the real ticket here, because that strategy piqued their interest, they go, hey, let's go a little bit deeper with this episode. And now we're in their phone. So that's strategy number 1 that I wanted to cover here today. Strategy number 2 has to do with guesting on other people's podcasts. We all know OPP, you know me, other people's podcasts. That's what we want to do. So we aren't as strategic with this opportunity as I would like most podcasters to be. So, I go on 1 or 2 podcasts a week. Here's my strategy. I look at what the show is about. I have an idea of what we're probably going to talk about, and I will have an Evernote file pulled up with notes with specific episodes that I know I could reference when I talk about, if people are like, hey, I want you to come on and talk about how to grow a podcast or how to make money as a podcast or how to get clients from your podcast. Those are kind of my wheelhouse topics. And now I've got these lists of 3 to 5 episodes for each of those core topics that are more recent episodes. So I'm not like, go back to episode 4 when I've got 500 episodes, because that's probably not my best work. So I've got these reference points. So same thing as when I present on stage, I'm talking about it. We have to be a little bit more fluid when someone else is interviewing us, but we've got that kind of Rolodex ready to go. And you go, hey, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to let people know, if they want to dive a little bit deeper on what we just talked about, hit episode 489 of Podcasting Business School, because of blah, 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 blah. And then the host is always like, I'll put that in the show notes. I'm like, thank you very much. So giving them a specific episode. So again, don't just go, hey, check out my show. It's like we're tying what we just talked about. If they're hot on that topic, I'll tell people, and I don't know if the hosts always like this or not, but like, hey, real quick, as soon as I get done saying what I'm about to say, I want you to pause it and go do this. So go and get episode number 489. Go ahead and pause it. We'll wait for you. And then, okay, welcome back. Now let's go to the next topic. Let's attack that next question. I want them to literally pause it, go find my show, scroll, download, so you don't forget. And now I'm in their earbuds. We've got our hooks in them with our content. So that's strategy number 2, guessing on someone else's podcast instead of just doing that broad shout out at the end. Hey, check out Podcasting Business School. Wherever you enjoy audio, give them specific episodes to dive into in the moment that you're actually talking about that topic, and have your Rolodex list ready to rock, just in case. All right. The third one, the third promotion strategy that I would like to see more podcasters using is with your email funnels. All right. A lot of people have email funnels that you have your whatever scorecard download or checklist or whatever. And we peel off 5, 10, 100 emails in this funnel that comes off of that. And a lot of us are not great at this, by the way, including myself. Like, I am probably the worst email funnel builder ever. Like, I hate writing emails that have like a sales goal for some reason. My newsletter, I'll sit down and jam out every Thursday, but I write that in the moment. That's like my love letter to my listeners, and that's easy and fun, no problem. But me going, okay, I got to leave the breadcrumb trail down to this sale and really get them there at the end. I'm not good at that. Like, I have to kind of just write in the moment from my heart. That's where I'm best. So anyway, so what I've figured out how to do, if I'm going to write a 10 email funnel, this is exactly what I did. If you guys download a lead magnet like my podcast growth scorecard, again, it's on the freebie button on my website. You can get an example of this. So on my podcast growth scorecard, there's 10 emails. Email one is the traditional welcome email. Here's what this is all about. Here's how you use the tool. Email 5 and 10 will drive to a discovery call. Hey, if you are struggling with X, Y, and Z, we'd love to do a discovery call. So I'm not even selling anything at that point. Let's get on the phone or on the Zoom and do a discovery call. So that's email 1, 5, and 10. The other 7 emails are all structured around a podcast episode recommendation. All right. So this is how I build an effective, simple email funnel. And so I have 7 opportunities, and I look at the topic of the lead magnet that they downloaded, which is my podcast growth scorecard. So I'm like, all right, I've got at least 7 great episodes about growing a podcast. So I get my best ones and I just send out individual emails recommending those episodes. So now they're on my email funnel. I'll write a little paragraph, give it an enticing title to the email. But something I've learned more lately is that like the email title hook isn't as important as like the person that's sending it, that name behind the send. Like people will open my emails because I sent it, not because I have some splashy email title. I've got a 70% email open rate because I sent it and I sent it consistently in the way I infuse myself into my brand and I add value. That's why people open my emails. It's not because I'm like 3 giant mistakes that podcasters the show will implode if they make these mistakes. So like, I don't do that. So with the email funnels, I've got with a 10 email funnel, I've got the intro, and the drive to discovery call in 5 and 10. I've got 7 opportunities to get my best content in front of those people that are already downloaded a lead magnet, they're already interested in this topic, and I want them binge listening on my best stuff on that topic as they're participating in the lead magnet scorecard or whatever it is. And those people are much more likely when I send email 5 and email 10 about signing up for a podcast profit potential discovery call, those people are much more likely to do that because they aren't just getting emails from me. They've listened to hours of content before email 5 hits the inbox. And then again in email 10. So that just loads my expert positioning. They're hearing me do podcast audits. They're hearing me do solo episodes. They're getting my regular weekly newsletter. And all that value add builds credibility, builds expert positioning, and they're much more ready to take action when I put that call to action of, hey, let's get together and chat about doing business together. So those are three ways I would like to see podcasters kind of going next level and getting more strategic instead of just speaking on a stage and going, oof, glad that's over, or speaking on someone else's podcast and going, oof, glad that's over, or like throwing an email funnel together going, man, that really was a pain to do. We have 3 unique opportunities to get people really kind of playing the long relationship building game and get people addicted to our content, getting them really seeing us as an expert and as a the creator of the podcast first marketing system. Like I don't want them to go to my website. I really don't want them to follow me on Instagram. I want them binge listening to my podcast first, and everything else peels off of that. So I will open this up for questions, ideas. If you're like, how do I apply this in my certain situation? Things like that. So DR, why don't you kick off the Q&A segment here?
Okay, so I have 2 questions. The first one is on number 1 when you're on stage speaking. So you say, go to episode 42, but what do you say after that? I mean, the episode kind of is the whole thing. So what are you talking on?
So, okay, I will teach. I don't reference the episode until I'm done talking about the
Okay.
tip.
So the
So
episode is just reiterating what you've
yeah,
said on stage.
yeah. So if I'm talking about podcast growth, maybe I'm talking about organic discoverability, and I'm teaching my perfect podcast name formula, and I'll teach that and I'll talk. But I'm not that guy that has 200 slides. I'm that guy that has like 7 slides. So
Okay.
when I spoke at Content Entrepreneur Expo earlier in the year, in Cleveland. It was a great event. Highly recommend it. Hope to be back on stage next year. I spoke right behind Michael Stelzner from Social Media Marketing World.
Hmm.
Big name, millions of downloads. He had 200 plus slides. And then I get up and I literally have 7 slides. And I'm doing this thing where like I don't need to read from the screen. I'm not turning around going, and now I'm going to talk about all these things.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't like having all the words on the screen, have a book up there. I'm just like, here's what I'm getting ready to teach you. And then underneath it is an episode if you want to go a little bit deeper. But now let's have a conversation. I'm going to teach on this because I
Right.
just know my stuff.
Okay.
And then I'm like, and hey, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, I have an episode. It's called blah, 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 blah. It's episode whatever. Go on your phone right now, scroll, 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 hit that download button. So yeah, that's how I typically do a presentation.
Okay. My second question is on your third tip, the email funnels. Now, you said that you talked about your open rate, which is very high, and you said that you can do this because you have a name. Everyone knows you. But what about those of us that are not so much known? Where do we even start in this?
Yeah. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing, but really like I started with zero email list, zero Instagram followers, zero podcast subscribers, but I started sending newsletters right from the beginning. Like I think I convinced like 7 podcasters to give me their email address, and then I started sending newsletters every week with 7 people on my list. But I just like did it as if I'm like I envisioned the larger
And
list
how
that I have
often
now
did those newsletters go out when you
every
first
week.
started? Oh,
Every
every
week.
week. Okay.
I've done a
Okay.
weekly newsletter since 2017, every single
Okay.
week, never missed a week. I've put out a podcast episode every single week since 2015, usually multiple episodes a week. So like consistency wins in this game. And that's how I build that credibility and that name recognition. And I'm not saying like people see my name and that's because I'm fancy that they open it. They have experienced me in some way. They've listened to my show. They've been to a Pod Pal Zoom party. They've seen me add value first, and they attach my name to that value add, and that's why they open it. Not because I'm fancy and famous, like, oh, you know,
Oh, but
oh,
you're fancy. Come on.
Oprah just sent me an email. I'm going to open it because Oprah sent it. And that's not what I mean. It's like I had a really positive experience from listening to Adam on stage or his show or whatever. That's why they open it because they just assume that there's value behind that
Okay.
email that they want to open. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. Thank you.
So just add value and do it as if you've got a giant list because when you do, then you're cooking. But you got to practice that as you go. And it's just like podcasting. It's almost better that you start off with a smaller email list, smaller audience because your first stuff isn't going to be that great. You're
Well,
kind of figuring it out.
how fast were those reads? You know how sometimes you get uh, emails and it says, 3-minute read or 2-minute read. How fast were those reads when you were first sending those things out?
The
How,
newsletters,
yeah, how long were they?
like 10 minutes. It wasn't a giant
I
blog
mean,
or anything
to
like that.
read?
Yeah. It's if they dive into all the links that I send and
Oh,
like all
okay.
the sub whatever, um, yeah. But I mean, it's but what my newsletter is not, and what my emails are not, is just one promotion for a thing. Like I
Okay.
consider a newsletter and an email funnel; those are 2 different things, and then a promotion email is a separate thing. I think a mistake that a lot of podcasters make is they think that's all the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So my Thursday weekly newsletter is love letter to the audience, huge value add. I will promote a thing if I have it coming up, but that's a very small segment of that. I will promote an episode, but it's kind of an after the fact thought off of my main topic that I'm deep diving on. Um, when I'm doing an email funnel, it's all about adding value with those podcast episodes. And if I send a specific promotion email, like I've got I'm doing a monthly free workshop. I'll send a specific promotion email to promote that free workshop, and that's the only thing I'm talking about. So I view those as 3 separate things, and a lot of time, less experienced podcasters, less experienced online business owners just lump that all into email marketing. I do email
Right.
marketing. It's all one big thing, and I think
Right.
there's 3 separate entities there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to add an idea, comment? Yes, Rick, go for it.
There we go. I'm going to ask you a question about that first tip that you said about referencing the actual podcast and you put the number of the podcast when you list your show. What about SEO? Doesn't that get in the way of SEO when you're like episode 42 and then you have your SEO about what your episode's about? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So a lot like there, I think it was like a year and a half ago, maybe it was more recent than that. Buzzsprout put out a big article about like, do not put numbers in your podcast episode titles. But I'm like, what about all these people saying that a great episode title is 7 strategies for blah, 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 or 5 tips about blah, blah, blah? Those do great. So, how does the algorithm know any difference between episode 5 and 5 tips to whatever? I don't think that it does. So, what I do recommend against is putting the word episode in there. That's too long. We don't want to clunk up
Right.
our title space with that. I love 3 digits. So I just go 501, title of the podcast, 502, title of the podcast. And I've not seen, I've done over 1 million downloads, so it's not hurt me too bad. So
Do you put a period after the number
I do
or
colon.
colon? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And some people put it at the end, and I think that's okay too. So it'll be like name of the episode, brackets, 502 or whatever. But we just want people to
Right.
be able to see it. And I
Sure.
think anybody that is trying to get clients from their podcast, this is especially important. Even if it did hurt my algorithm, whatever, a little bit, it pays off when I go and speak at these events or other people's podcasts when people can quickly find it. I'm building that expert position. But if it was like a storytelling podcast or something like that, probably less important. And honestly, if podcast search bar improvements happened where you can go on my feed and really say, hey, put in this word and this thing will come up, but that we're just not there yet. It's not consistent at all. And
Right.
the more episodes you have, the more kind of, you know, convoluted it gets there. So
Sure. No,
I
I think
have,
it's a great reference point
yeah.
when you're on somebody else's podcast or wherever, if you're on a stage to be able to say, hey, here's my top three. Or if you're looking for this, these are the two you want to get 24, 20, whatever. I just didn't know if I read that article from Buzzsprout. I'm on Buzzsprout
yeah,
and it kind of
yeah,
swayed me like, ooh, because I used to have episode 1, episode 4, that kind of thing. So it's something to consider going back and putting a number on because I would like to be able to reference it when I'm on other people's podcasts. It just makes
yeah,
so much sense.
yeah. And here's where I think this all came from, to be honest. And this is just me guessing.
Yeah.
Um, Apple, again, that year or two ago zone, Apple put something out where, like when you load, like I'm on Libsyn, when I load up my show on Libsyn, there's like the little sidebar thing that says Apple podcast title. So you can have like
Mm.
the way you want it to show up in Apple. I think honestly, Apple was trying to get people to stop numbering their episodes because you can do it on Apple and Apple does it automatically, but all the other podcast players may or may not. So I'm just throwing my number in there so it's consistent across the board. Every single podcast player app, good to go. The algorithm police haven't come after me yet for doing it. It's
That's what I was going to
yeah,
ask. What about the people who say, well, your host does it anyway. Your host numbers it anyway. But sometimes there might be a trailer or a bonus episode or something, and that makes everything askew,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And then you reference it and they're going to the wrong one.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, things can jump around a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any tangible proof. Like if like Rob from Libsyn emails me, he's like, hey, dude, stop numbering your episodes because of this notice that has come out from all the podcast player apps. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop numbering my episodes. I'll figure something else out. But to this point, like I said, like so many people are saying using numbers like 7 tips for 7 strategies about, and how the heck do you differentiate between that number 7 and episode 7? So anyway, so yeah, that I think you're thinking along the right way there. Like those are things we have to consider, because we want to keep the algorithm happy and the search bar happy as much as possible. So yeah, I think you're thinking along the right lines. Yes, Chris, go for it.
Hi, I recently rebranded, so I only have 1 month of episode for the rebrand. So I want to guest on some podcasts, but the question is, so my other podcast was similar in content, not 100%, but some of them would be alignment with this. Would it be okay to reference those? Like if I guest on a podcast to say, hey, here's some of my ethical considerations for integrating yoga into sessions, and this was part of my other podcasts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you have the same RSS feed? So is it in the
Yeah,
same?
everything is the
It's all
same.
linked. I think
Yeah.
that's fine then. I think that's fine.
Yeah, because
And you
I'm
may
like, I only
say,
have
yeah,
four episodes right now, so
yeah,
we're just
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's fine. And I mean, I would mention I recently rebranded, so that's one of my that's under the
Okay.
old branding, still super applicable to our conversation today or whatever. And then
Okay.
really think about your content moving forward and go, okay, these next few weeks, if I'm talking on another person's show, what episodes do I want to be
Right.
able to reference with my new
Okay.
branding? And then also, this is something I didn't mention, so I'm glad you brought this up. Think about the call to action that you have in those
Mm.
episodes that you're referencing.
Oh,
So, for
okay. That's
example,
true.
an episode that I name drop a lot is episode 483 of Podcasting Business School, was I talk about 5 strategies to double your downloads. Great.
Right.
Talk about an eye-catchy, splashy title. My God, I must have used AI or something for that one. So, because I sure couldn't think of something like that. But my call to action with that, and I only have one call to action, so I'm not sending people a million different things. So in the intro and the outro, I'm talking about doing a free trial of my Download Growth Club. So now all the stars are aligning. I'm on a show talking about podcast growth. I go, hey, check out episode 483 of Podcasting Business School, 5 strategies to double your downloads. And I know when they listen to that, they're hearing a call to action to start a free trial of my Download Growth Club. So all that lines up. So think about that as well as you're creating new episodes. Go,
Yeah.
hey, what is my call to action? If somebody was to bounce over here and start with this episode from me speaking on a
Hmm.
stage or another other podcast, let's align. That's why I love aligning my call to action with the content
Yeah,
because
that's what I've been trying to do as well,
good,
because I remember you said that.
good work.
And just to go with what you said as far as numbering, I find that I have over 200 now, so there's no way I can even find my own episodes if I didn't number them. But I think it's helpful because you sent me some through Instagram, just some episodes, so that I can reference it and then send it to other people I connect with online. So I think that's something for people to consider too.
So proof, Chris, Chris, we hit it up on Instagram, send her some
Right.
specific stuff. She can go to it, check it out. So yeah, so that's, like I said, I think that's worth the risk of making Apple a little bit angry because we put a number in my episode. And I think, again, you could always slap it in there at the back edge if you wanted to, but just that scrollability, there's something there. We're like, hey, go get this. All right, cool. It's not a pain in the butt. I can easily do it. Yeah. I mean, the only other workaround I could see would be the release date, but that's still going to be a little bit, all right, go back to October 16th of 2024. And it's like, all right, I got to figure this out. It's just much easier if you got a number there. So no, that's good. Cool. Anybody else want to toss a question out there?
I have one more question if no one else is going to ask.
Let's go for it, DR.
Okay. If someone were to go back and start numbering their episodes, and let's say they have 100 of them, um, is there like a bump that they get because they're republishing or something?
Okay. So I have had people in my membership Download Growth Club not go back and number their episodes, but go back and change a
A
word
title or something?
with
Yeah.
like an upgraded keyword sort of
Yeah.
thing. And we have seen
A
a bump
bump.
from that.
Okay. Okay. Good.
So yeah. And I would do them in little batches. So like I would go to the beginning, let's do like 5 and let's just see what happens to make sure that this is why I don't like if you have your show set up as seasons and things like that, it could really screw it up because all of a sudden that might be considered the new season. It'll jump it to the top and then it's out of order. So that's a whole other conversation about pitfalls of doing seasons and listing your show as seasons and things like that. So yeah, so that's what we have to be careful of. So if you have a normal feed set up where most recent content pops to the top, you should be able to update early episodes and it doesn't shift it around at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Ideally. All right. Let's do some podcaster speed dating, the most fun that a group of podcasters can have on a Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. All right. So you each get 60 seconds. I want you to let us know your name, the name of your show. If you have guests on who you're looking for as a guest, if you are looking to guest on other people's show, be as specific as you can about what you really like to focus on. And then let us know one way to contact you. And feel free to share all that information in the chat as well. But also remember that this is being produced as a podcast episode, and lots of podcasters are listening in. So make sure that if you give an email address and you got kind of a funky name or something, like spell it out so we know how to get a hold of you. All right. Speaking of funky names, let's go to DR. She's going to kick it off. You've got 60 seconds, my friend. Show them how it's done.
Okay, so I am DR Faye. I am a certified podcast coach because of Adam. I was in his course, and I'm so happy I was. I'm also a producer. I produce 3 other shows for other podcasters, and I am finally starting a podcast of my own. I'm so excited. It's going to be called the Podcast Help Desk, and it's specifically for entrepreneurs who have a podcast. And if you have a question, anything about, anything from what kind of mic should I get, all the way to strategy and email, and I mean, all the different things that go under podcast umbrella. It's a speak pipe situation where you click on the link and it takes you to speak pipe, and you talk about what your question is. And I spend an entire episode promoting you and your podcast. And bonus, if you implement my suggestion and 3 months later or 6 months later, you come on my show and you talk about the journey from before to current. So I'm excited about it. And if you're looking for someone on your podcast who can talk to entrepreneurs to tell them why every single business should have a podcast, I'm your girl.
All right, DR, how do they get a hold of you?
Hey, I am at mouthybroadmedia at gmail.com. Never could have guessed that right.
Yeah, so
mouthybroadmedia at gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat.
Shout out to DR. She is one of my recent podcast growth coach certification graduates. Super proud of her. When we came up with this idea, she came up with the idea, and I just like celebrated the idea for her show. I'm like, this is the most DR show ever. She's gonna have a lot of fun with it. So she'll get a hold of her. You could submit an audio clip. She'll answer it on her show, and it's gonna be super awesome. So let's keep it going here. Shelly, go ahead and take that mic and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shelly Niehaus, and I have a podcast called Educated, Empowered, Inspired, where I teach online marketing tips to service providers and small businesses. And my goal is just to help you guys simplify your marketing so that you can really work in your business and do what you love, because marketing does not have to be complicated. It can be simple and it can be fun. So that's my show is all about marketing tips and just business and entrepreneurship. I do take guests. I take roughly 12 to 15 guests a year. So I am pretty particular about who I am, but it is all around the marketing field. And I love to also do coaching episodes. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can maybe implement some marketing strategies in your business, I do marketing makeover strategy sessions probably twice a month, and you can jump on my show for one of those. And I do guest if you are interested in learning or having a guest about marketing, specifically to small businesses, service-based businesses. And you can reach me at Shelly Niehaus. It's SHELLYNIEHAUS on Instagram.
All right. And go and listen to Shelly's show. She is awesome. All right. She's really, really an expert in the marketing space, and she teaches in a way that you can easily consume and implement. So I love that. All right. Go and support Shelly's show. Let's go to Ivana. Go ahead and tell us about your show.
Hi, I'm Ivana Luki. I'm the host of the School Psych podcast because I'm a school psychologist. So that's where I teach parents and teachers and school staff, educators, all about various learning struggles that your students or your kids might be struggling with. I talk about ADHD, dyslexia, anxiety, intellectual disability. I teach about it, but then I also do episodes that are like top 10 strategies for supporting your struggling reader. Kids are dealing with a lot these days, post-pandemic. I'm definitely going to be in a job for a very long time, unfortunately. And I like having the podcast platform because I feel like parents receive these diagnoses or are told that their children are struggling, and then they feel so alone and don't realize that there's actually it's so common. There's so many parents who are struggling out there that want to learn about more about these diagnoses. So I will often point them to a specific episode. Hey, you want to learn more about ADHD? Go to my deep dive episode on ADHD. I primarily do solo episodes, but I do take guests, especially school clinicians or parents, caregivers wanting to tell their story. That kind of provides a little bit of hope to other families out there. That's kind of what I'm especially looking for right now. And if you want to reach me, my podcast email is schoolpsychpodcast@gmail.com. Or in the show notes of each episode, it says send us a text. And that's just a really easy way to shoot me a message and ask a specific question that I can then address on a future episode. Let me know the topics that you're interested in.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you, Ivana. Great to have you here at Pod Pals. All right, let's go over to Rick. Go for it, man. Hold on. Unmute yourself there, Rick.
Let's try that.
There we go.
There we go. I'm Big Rick from the Rock Talk Studio podcast, where I review and preview and recommend rock and roll books and documentaries. Each week, I take a spotlight title and go through it to make sure I look at every angle to see if this book is worth your time and money. I also do a show at the end of the month where I do book buzz and documentary news. So if you're into rock and roll books and documentaries, this is a place to catch up on what's new, what's coming out, and what to look forward to. It's a solo show. It's me. It's quick. It's about 10, 15 minutes a week where I just get right down to it and let you know where to go for the good stuff. I do go on other people's shows. I like to go on other people's shows and tell them about, top 5 books of the year, or what's ranking currently on the best documentaries, what's coming out, and what to look forward to. You can find me or reach me at info@rocktalkstudio.com.
All right. Great to have you here, Rick. Let's
Thanks.
go over to Chris. Go ahead and take that mic.
My name's Chris McDonald. I'm a mental health therapist and yogi. So I'm a certified yoga teacher. So I integrate yoga into clinical sessions and I teach therapists how to do that as well. So my podcast is called Yoga in the Therapy Room. And it's for non-traditional therapists who want to integrate yoga into sessions safely and ethically and effectively. And that's what I'm focused on more specifically for this podcast. And I do solo episodes and some guesting. And I only have guests who are therapists or body workers or somatic practitioners and yoga teachers. So I'm really trying to keep the guests less, as Adam says, that we have to have more solo episodes. So I've done a lot more solo episodes so far. And I bring in a lot of different practices and hands-on tools for therapists to use in sessions. And you can reach me at chris@yogainthetherapyroom.com. It's CHRIS.
All right. Great to have you here, Chris.
Thanks.
Let's finish up with Charlie. Charlie, go ahead and unmute yourself. Tell us about your show. We're working on the unmuting. There we go. We got it.
My Zoom window went and hid. I'm Charlie with referrals while you sleep. And I built a marketing tool for real estate agents and lenders and met Adam, and I'm working behind the scenes to redo it for podcasters. And I got my first client ever from a podcast implementing your tools yesterday. So thank you, Adam.
Nice.
And so I've got a marketing tool that works with real estate agents and lenders. If you know someone that is a real estate agent or lender that really loves their clients and probably not really good at marketing, but great at serving their clients, that would be a great person for my show because those are the people I help. And I would be a good guest on someone if they wanted to talk about, how to market from the heart, connect with people, specifically on social media if you don't ever want to be on social media. So I kind of automate that. And you can reach me at referralswhileyousleep.com. And that's about me.
All right. Charlie's a good dude. We're doing some experiments with podcasters, like you said. I'm very excited to report back on in the future. All right. I think we're good. We got everybody there. For those of you that are here, hang on for a minute after we sign off here. I got a couple things that throw your direction. But for all of you that are out there listening, if you want to be on the next Pod Pal Zoom party in November of 2024, hit the website www.podcastingbusiness.school. Hit the freebie button and click on the Pod Pals Zoom party. A couple of the freebies that you may want to check out while you're over there. But I appreciate you all being here live with me. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And with that, I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you next time. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.